my name is Emily. Today I thought I would share some of my character design tips into making interesting and unique OCs and fitting them into a world to actually shape something consistent and some things that have helped me with consistency in my character designs.
So without further ado, here is 10 tips for making interesting characters. So I'm starting off with something a little weird. You're just gonna have to hear me out. This is shapes. Essentially, kind of like a theory on certain shapes are associated with certain character traits or personality traits, right? Think of characters with harsh lines like Bill Cipher, he is literally a triangle, stuff like that.
Okay, so I have some sketch examples of what I mean when I say shapes. We've got, for example, circles. She's got very soft, very round features here, round ears, round face. Her hair kind of softens her figure a little bit. Rounder kind of shapes pertaining to the body. We've got this girl that I'm sketching using triangles. So she's got an angular face, sharp shoulders, very jarring angles with the body here and here, where you can see her legs and her waist and everything. Kind of tapers off. I've also got this little sharp skirt. And then for Mr. Rectangle guy over here, I've got a very sharp jawline, wider set shoulders, stuff like that. Very bland all the way down, not really a whole lot going on. And more of the shape will come when I actually add details like clothing and hair and faces to all of these characters. But I'm gonna go ahead and fully design these as I'm giving the design tips so that you have more of an idea of what I'm actually applying when I create these characters.
Alright, so interestingly enough, this video of me adding details to my character to fit the shape theory more and give them more of a concrete, this is a circle character, this is a triangle character, etc. This is actually tying into number 2, which is define your silhouette. You do not want characters who do not look recognizable from a distance. You want people to be able to look at just the outline of your character, no line art, no shapes, nothing, and be able to go, I know without a shadow of a doubt that is this character rather than another one in your universe that you're creating, right? You want your character to be unique and to stand out from everybody else so that when you have different character designs, you can tell them apart, everyone else can tell them apart. Super simple to do with different hairstyles, different heights, different clothing, all sorts of stuff that you can do to kind of manipulate that in your favor. Number 3 is gonna sound like kind of a shocker. I'm going into color theory again. Oh Lord, cover your ears. Alright, so you're going to want to pick complementary colors. Now you don't have to. You can also use what is it? The word analogous colors. So analogous colors are colors that are close on the color wheel to each other, right? So think like red and orange, and those look good together. And complementary colors are colors opposite from each other on the color wheel. So I guess an example would be pink and blue. I believe those are opposite. Red and green, that's a good example. So stuff like that, right? So when you make your characters, you want to have a consistent color palette. So you're going to want to kind of limit your colors if you can, because it tends to help when you are creating something that is consistent. So if you want to have a character that you draw all the time, you need to know what colors you're going to use. You're going to want to swatch them or something like that. And so this is kind of how this ties into all of that. So I'm going to be doing my swatches for my characters and all that junk. All right, my next one is have clothing choices pertain to the person's personality, personal style, and lifestyle, okay? You do not want, you don't want a bard in plate armor. That just kind of breaks your immersion. Now, I don't know, maybe the bard has some reason for it, and see, now that can make sense, but essentially what I'm trying to say is, for example, you wouldn't make an alternative character who has conservative beliefs. That doesn't make sense. For the most part, you'd have to kind of play around with what you're doing with that and make it work in some way. And so what I'm saying with this is basically think about if your character had a mind of its own and got to dress themselves every morning, what would they do? And apply that consistently, especially through their lifestyle. So think like, do they have a job? Do they, do they go on adventures? What do they fight? What's their fighting style? Things like that can kind of help flesh out your world more. And then also, like, in comparison to your other characters, what are the differences and how they would each individually decide to dress and style themselves? A good example of this is one such character that I created when I was around 12, and I've been drawing these two characters actually since then. And the difference between these two is, so Liam, he's a blonde-haired dude. He wears baggy hoodies, clothes that kind of cover his body. He doesn't like existing or having a corporeal form. It's kind of a curse, honestly, which real. I'm totally not projecting. And another example is my other character, Miki, who is love interest. She does not give a shit. She's a punk girl. She doesn't care. And you bet your ass you will be able to know just who she is by looking at her. Tip number 5 is to make character sheets. Now, character sheets, for those of you who have never been cursed with the knowledge, character sheet is drawing of your character from the front, from the back, and sometimes from the side. And usually you would include different outfits, things like that. So like you'd have like daily wear, maybe sleepwear, adventure clothes, going out clothes, that kind of thing. I did not make a full character sheet. This is the closest thing I've made to a character sheet. I always swear that I'm not going to make one, and then every time it just rears its ugly head, and I end up having to make a character sheet anyways. So if you think that you can avoid the character sheet, it's inevitable, no matter how much you hate doing it. If you have a semi-realistic or overly cartoony style, or let's just say you have, bottom line, if you are drawing in an anime art style, have sheets for your character's eyes. This is gonna sound super whack, but you want the eyes to be distinct and unique with the character. You want the shapes to be different, the colors, the size of the iris, the amount of light shining through, the eyelashes, fucking everything. I'm actually running out of breath talking about this. No, but what I'm saying is you want to make sure that you can tell your characters apart just from the eyes. And even if that means drawing a bunch of different eyeballs over the same image of a character over and over and over again until you get it right, then you might have to do that. That's something I did for, I think it took me like a year to get one of my characters' like eye design consistent. So, like, big round eyes, obviously soft, bubbly character, teeny tiny little angular bitch eyes, like Levi Ackerman. That means he's an asshole, okay? Basic shit, basic things that will help you with things like that. Also, tiny pupils. Like tiny little pupils, mentally unstable, think Karma Agabane, fucking crazy bitch, okay, tiny pupil, this is psycho, pupil too big, crazy or in love, I don't know, okay, you want to kind of play around with those things. Honestly, the best thing that'll help you if you're not really sure what direction to go is just look at a bunch of different anime characters and draw like all the eyeballs you can find that you find interesting. My next tip is, if your art style is burning you out, do not let it hold you back. Try other shit. Okay? You might find that you actually quite like drawing in a simplistic style, and that it may actually look nicer and close to the kind of feel that you want your characters to have. Don't limit yourself to one art style, especially if you're just trying to decide on a design. Go ahead and see what's out there and just experiment with different stuff. Play around with it. It's not like anyone's forcing you to draw specific things. It took me so long to release the death grip that anime had on me, and it is still embedded into my very being. Don't let that be you if it doesn't need to be, you know? And if you like drawing anime, there's no problem with that shit. I still draw it. But what I'm saying is, if you're trying to make a comic in that style, fuck, good luck. The next tip is learn the rules before you break them. You do not want to hide behind an art style for your entire life, not actually trying anything similar to, real life. Now, I will say that I actually don't have a problem with using mainly anime styles to learn for your basis of anatomy, because anime characters tend to be a lot, pretty detailed. I would just say practice drawing, real life faces a bit more, which is kind of what I did to get to the point that I am, but I'm kind of comfortable not drawing full realism all the time. But even if you are using a very stylized and simplistic art style, I will say there are some things that are useful to know. Your forehead is a third of your head, a third of your face. Your forehead, that makes up a third of your face. I don't care who you are. Everyone's got a big ass fucking forehead, and they don't realize it. Your eyes are exactly one eye apart. Your brow bone, where the end of the tail of your eyebrow lines up with the top of your ears. Stuff like that. The bottom of the lip is actually going to be a brighter color than the top of the lip when you're drawing realism. A person is about 5 to 6 heads tall. Kind of weird, but that helps a lot too. That's more of an anime tip, but it helps translate over to real life pretty well as well. A very tall person would be 6 heads. Stuff like that, easy little tips. Your forearms and your upper arms are roughly about the same length if you exclude your hands. Okay? Little details. I'm trying to think of anything that I could say that are pretty good examples. Stuff like your shoulders and your hips. For women, those generally align. And for men, their hips are usually smaller than their shoulders. So there's that. Just little anatomy tips that can kind of help give you more of a feel for what exactly you're portraying. So this example or tip is very obvious. Number 9 is make sure that it is obvious that your characters are in the same world if they are, alrighty? So that just means having consistency in the way that you draw bodies and faces, and making sure that you're not differing too much, and you can obviously have variety in your styles when it comes to that sort of thing, obviously. But it is just important to remember that if these characters are all within the same universe, within the same living conditions, within the same society, that there are traits and design choices that would carry over naturally. And the reason why I say this is because you want things to tie in together cohesively and have it make sense. That what you are building is not just a story or a world or a set of characters. When you are building a story, an actual world, right? You're making an entire universe with its entire, rule sets and laws and rules that, that have to make sense and tie in together. Alrighty, number 10. This is such a weird one. Have a canon height and maybe even a canon weight for your characters. This is probably going to be most useful if you make a character sheet or something as well. So if you have multiple characters in a comic, and by God, if you are writing a romance, make sure the heights are consistent, okay? So things like that, right? You don't want, to establish that the main love interest is 5'4" and then have them be 6'3" 3 panels later. That's not gonna fly. And a way to do this is, like I said, with the heads. So you would have okay, this character is 5.5 heads, this character is 6 heads, this character is however much. How I would usually do it is I would take one of my taller characters and compare everybody shorter to them by how they come up to them, body-wise. So let's say, for my characters, my girl that's going to be my main love interest in the comic that I'm writing, her name is Miki. She is, She's pretty tall. She's almost 6 foot, not quite. And the guy that she's into only reaches her shoulder, man. So that's how I remember things like that. Is if they're standing next to one of your taller characters, where does the top of their head fall? Things like that can kind of like be a little tricky sometimes, but that's definitely something that you want to establish that I don't think a lot of people really put much thought into. That was all that I had today. This is actually my first long-form content video pertaining to actually helping people with their artistic journey. So if you have any advice or tips or anything you'd like to hear from me in the future, please let me know, leave a comment, drop a like, and thank y'all so much for watching this video.